Good evening. I'm Ryan, City Manager for the City of Shelton, and would like to welcome you to our annual Community Engagement Forum, Shelton Out Loud. Really quickly, I want to thank Andy Arness, our Community and Economic Development Officer, for arranging this event and recruiting all of you to come and share your questions with us tonight. So Andy, thank you very much. We're going to get started really quick, but before we do that, I'll just go over a little bit what this looks like. We have the agenda up here. We'll have opening remarks from the mayor. After that, we will go through department updates from the city departments, about 5 to 7 minutes apiece. And then after that, we will stay here as long as you have questions. We won't be able to answer all of them tonight, but anything we can answer, we'll get information and then follow up with anybody that has a question. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming the mayor of Shelton, Gary Krantz.
Thank you, Ryan. Would you please stand with me and we will recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much for coming out tonight. As Ryan said, my name is Gary Krantz, and I am the mayor of Shelton. And tonight is Shelton Out Loud. It's been an honor and a privilege to be your mayor for the past 6 years. I've been asked to give a few examples of our city's accomplishments that we recently experienced, and so I will do that at this time. Can everybody hear me okay? 2 years ago, Shelton was teetering on the edge of bankruptcy. But today I have good news to announce. The recession's over. We have broken our addiction to low-interest loans and are now pulling ourselves out of debt. Shelton has a new state-of-the-art mill on our waterfront called Sierra Pacific Industries. Yes, yes. Cool. We got some applause. All right. And I see that Shelton Hills is beginning to do some logging and clearing up on the hill, and hopefully they will be developing that property soon. Last year, Shelton was faced with the reality of only building 2 homes per year for many years. And this commission made a bold step by cutting our permit fees in half. And in the first 16 months, we built 24 new homes. Another major challenge we were faced was how to continue funding our aging infrastructure without adding to our rapidly growing debt. 2 years ago, our city debt had grown to over $50 million. Our answer was to form a sewer funding coalition with other cities in our state experiencing the same problems. We found out that there was truly power in numbers, and that power was the Sewer Funding Coalition. It was given an award by the Association of Washington Cities. It's called the Advocacy All-Star Award because of the work that we did getting other cities together and bringing our demands to the state legislature. This coalition opened doors that allowed us to meet face-to-face with the governor, lieutenant governor, director of the Department of Ecology, and last but not least, our state legislators, Tim Sheldon, Dan Griffey, and Drew McEwen. Typically, when a city replaces a sewer basin, like our Basin 3, they get a 10 to 20% grant and an 80 to 90% loan. But after 5 years of intense negotiations with the state, we are very close to rebuilding Basin 3 with 100% grant dollars. And this is unheard of. This translates, and the reason we fought this hard for this translates to a 0 increase to your sewer bills to fund this particular basin if we do get to the 100% funding level, which I believe we are very close to do. I could go on and tell you about other successes, especially our police department under the leadership of our police chief, Darren Moody. Or this one I could talk about, and this is another very bright bulb in our box of bright bulbs, and that's how, after taking an extensive look at our capital improvement plan, we discovered that with new technology and forward thinking, we were able to reduce the projects list by more than $44 million. But this evening is more about you than it is about us. I'm not just your mayor, but I'm your neighbor. And what concerns you about our community concerns me also. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak to you to open this program. I will now turn it back to our city manager, Ryan Wheaton. Thank you.
One more round of applause for Mayor Gary Krantz. We are going to try something. So I want to test out a survey with you. Can you raise your hand if you live in the city limits? Raise your hand if you work in the city limits. Good. So we're going to try to get a survey up on this screen. So you all should have been given a remote. Everybody have one of those? If you don't have one of those, raise your hand and we'll get you one really quickly. Anybody not have one? We need 1, 2, 3. Your remote should have some letters at the top. We're going to take a quick multiple choice test that I hope does not pose too much difficulty for anyone. First question is, where do you live? So, corresponding answer, or you should click the button that corresponds with the answer on the screen. Either A, inside the Shelton city limits, B, in Mason County but outside the city limits, or C, outside Mason County. We'll take a few moments to do that. A, B, or C? Anybody need more time? And then we'll quickly get the answers from Andy. Second question, where do you work? Inside the Shelton city limits, in Mason County, but outside the city limits, outside Mason County, or D, not applicable to you? A, B, C, or D? Anyone need another second? So we're testing this because later on we're going to have some more questions that are going to help us formulate some of the discussions that we're going to have. But after that, we will get into your questions. So I'm going to introduce the department directors. We will bring them all up now, and then we'll go through our department updates. We have Public Works Director Craig Gregory, Community Development Director Mark Ziegler, Police Chief Darren Moody, Vicki Look, our Assistant City Manager, Nola Von Newdegg, our Finance Director, and then Fire Chief Tim McKern as well. Just go for it. We'll just go for it.
Yeah, you're on that end. Oh, I'm on that end?
While they're getting set, we will discuss something that I hope everybody notices, which is a year ago, this leadership team was a lot different. You now have almost all these positions, either somebody that has promoted or joined the city in the last year. Something that we're really, really proud of is, in addition to this team, our city attorney. Of the 7 people on our leadership team, 5 of those people are SHS graduates, and many of the people that you see leading the city today are lifelong city residents. We also have representatives at the commission level. Commissioner Kathy McDowell in the back is also a lifelong Shelton resident and a Shelton High School graduate, and Commissioner Tracy Moore, who I believe is here somewhere, had 3 kids that graduated from SHS. So with that, we will get straight into our department updates with Vicki Look.
Well, that's kind of loud, huh? Hello, everybody. Welcome to this first Shelton City Forum. I'm so glad they're all here, and it looks like we have a really good attendance, so really appreciate seeing that. As Ryan mentioned, we've had a lot of changes over the last year. I left and returned in September, and during that time, a lot of our leadership team had either retired or taken jobs in other locations. And so I came back, and our police chief, who is here a little over a year, had become the most senior leadership team member that we had. So that was pretty interesting. So I came back to work for Ryan, and during that time, there were a lot of changes. As he mentioned, we promoted Craig Gregory, who had worked here for several years, to the Public Works Director position. Mark Ziegler took over Community Development, and we stole NOLA from the city, or the Lacey Fire, and just kind of kept going. We hired Jamie Ogg as our new city clerk and Kristen French as our in-house city attorney, and we've just built a really great team. We've also hired Andy to help us with our communications and economic development, and we now have a building inspector that a lot of the public has met, because we have somebody that can go to the front counter and help our builders and other individuals looking for permitting for their houses and roofing and all those sorts of things. We moved our customer service group upstairs, so there's 3 ladies up there now that when you walk in, they can all help you, and we're just so much more efficient now, and we're building a really great team. We kind of took a look at that and figured out that we had hired over 40 individuals over this last year, including several new police officers and records clerks in the PD, and we're pretty excited about that because they have a real great team down there too. So we just keep going at it, and we're getting better all the time. It's pretty exciting about that. So we looked at it, and we figured we have about 45% of our staff is from this community, graduated here, and they're just vested in the community and doing a great job, and they're here to help you. So that's kind of the administration update.
So for Public Works, we've gone through a significant transformation over the last 12 months, not just in our staff turnover and who we brought on into Public Works and engineering, but also just the way that we do business in Public Works now. We no longer are building projects that are costing the taxpayers significant amounts of money. We have rethought how we are doing that, and we are taking on projects that the citizens want and need, and funding them through grants mainly, so that we lighten the burden on the citizens of Shelton. And some of the things that we have done in Public Works in 2017, in the water department, we've done tank cleaning and inspection of all of our elevated water tanks in town. We've replaced a 50-year-old booster pump in the Capitol Hill area to keep water flowing up there. In the storm department, on the east side of Mountain View on Laurel Street, we have done a major storm line extension of a trunk line that will provide drainage for the entire east side of Mountain View. A major fix on Olympic Highway South by rerouting a storm line up there that was failing on Olympic Highway South, actually crossing the road, and we've rerouted that down the south side to save a significant amount of money by getting that into another system. The water department received their annual DOE grant, or DOE award, for no violations to their discharge permit. We're very proud of that. That's a very big accomplishment for the sewer department. Not very many departments within cities receive that award. In the street department, through a partnership with Mason Transit Authority, we have installed a rapid flasher up on Olympic Highway, or Wallace Nealon Boulevard at OBJH to make that safer for the kids crossing up there across that roadway. We also completed a repair of 10 locations throughout the city with a $50,000 Transportation Improvement Board grant. And with engineering, we have started a road rating program to ensure that the projects that we're doing in the future are projects that really need to be done. They're not something that we're looking at and just want to get done, but they are a real need to get done. We also applied for a Transportation Improvement Board grant for Alder and Olympic Highway North. We completed a 10% design and a grant application of a little over $5 million, so we're hoping to hear back in mid-November on that one, and that would be a great project to connect First Street down by Mickey's Deli all the way to the top of the hill at C Street up by Skipworth. So we're really excited about that. As the mayor mentioned earlier, we're going to get started with the Basin 3 project, and we're hoping to fund that mainly through grants. And I am so proud of the engineering staff. They dove into redesigning that actual project and spent the last 4 or 5 months redesigning that, and through that, with their efforts and their abilities, we've shaved about $1 million off of that project through the work of the engineering staff. So very proud of them. The other thing that I am super proud of our department for completing was the Downtown Visioning Group Railroad Avenue project. Through that committee and the support of the community, they came up with a design for Railroad Avenue. We actually have some pictures of that over at the Public Works booth. And what that looked like was much different than the 2 blocks that we had turned into a single lane of traffic on Railroad Avenue that didn't look like it worked. So we took a project that was a couple $1 million project and turned that project around in about a month to get it done by the time Forest Festival Parade rolled around in early June. And it took each and every public works staff, including engineering staff, to get that done. So, and that project ended up being around a $35,000 project to complete. So looking forward into 2018, we are looking very forward to starting that Basin 3 project. Hopefully, we get awarded the grant for Alder and Olympic Highway North. And we also applied for a grant for Turner Street and also 16th Street from Turner to Harvard in the amount of about $600,000. So we're hoping to hear back from that one in November also. So hoping to get started with those. Thanks.
My name is Darren Moody. I'm with the police department, obviously. I met with a group the other day, and I described what we're going through the police department as not working. How's that? Is that better? I described what we've been going through the last 18 months, similar to what the 49ers are going through in a rebuilding and change. In the last 18 months at our police department, we've turned over about 1/3 of the staff of when I got here. We have hired 6 new police officers in the last 18 months from people that have left, 2 new records evidence clerks, and we have one of the new ones right there in the back, Mary. She's handing out the gift goodies to folks. And we hired a new community service officer. The community service officer is kind of a jack of all trades for us, and I'll get into a little bit of what he does in a minute. 5 of those officers we hired in the last 18 months came from Reserve Academy that we sponsored here in Shelton in 2015. The homegrown folks, 2 of them went on to become officers at other departments, and when they found out we had openings, they came back. That tells you a little bit about the passion of them wanting to be in this community and work in this community. We're hoping that in 2018, as budget allows, the commission has given its blessing as budget allows, that we will have another Reserve Police Officer Academy. So if you have any folks out there that are interested in being a police officer, a reserve is a great way to start. And as testimony to what we've done here, it could lead to a full-time job. Your police officers in this community are handing over 10,000 calls for service per year, well over 10,000 calls for service per year, in a city of, 3 miles and 10,000 people. We've seen a continuous drop in most of the property crimes over the last 2 years. Through July of this year, we had 29 less assault victims, 72 less theft victims, and last year, the end of 2016, we started to see a jump, as they did statewide, in motor vehicle thefts, and they were going through the roof. Several officers came into my office and said, hey, there's grant funding for auto prevention theft or auto theft prevention. They wrote their own grant. We did some community outreach in Spanish and English as to auto theft prevention. And if you haven't gotten one, we have, when you hold one up back there, come on, Vanna, there it is. We have clubs that were supplied through the grant that you can put on your cars. As such, year to date, we've had 15 less auto thefts than we had last year. So that was pretty good for us. We have seen a small increase in recent months in burglaries, and we've gone out and done some prevention work with folks, trying to tell them the best things they can do. Lighting, how you trim your bushes out front, that type of stuff can all have a significant effect on theft and burglary. Our new community service officer we hired in February. When I say community service officer, I mean full service community service officer. He is doing code enforcement work, he's doing traffic work, he's doing parking issues, abandoned car issues. He's kind of whatever, I call it the junk drawer. Whatever it fills up in that junk drawer, he gets handed. He started in late February, and in the 7 months he's been to here, he's picked up 89 stray dogs. I might add 10 ducks, 5 chickens, and 2 sheep. He also tagged 129 abandoned vehicles in town and marked them for removal. We're going to start working more on the other difficult code enforcement issues, certain properties with Mark and his team as we move forward into the next year, and I'm sure they'll be instrumental in that. We just had we did some traffic targeting recently, and you may have seen it up in the school zones. The officers designed a new schedule for themselves last year. I put them to task, they came up with a schedule, and as such, they basically owe 6 days a year of training. And on the last training day, we turned them out there to the school zones. They targeted the school zones and stopped a significant amount of folks. Trust me, I heard about it. A significant amount of folks coming in to and through the school zones. Then we targeted pedestrian safety down on Railroad Avenue in the crosswalks. So be aware when you're out there and driving down Railroad Avenue, that person you see out in that crosswalk may be a police officer. So that's what we did downtown, and it worked out pretty well. If you look back in the back of the room, Sarah was the one holding up the blocks that we gave out there. We have some good stuff to give out, some information, some safety bulletins, etc. Officer Diaz, Downs, Lieutenant Fiola, and our other stars are back there in the back of the room. And Sarah, our rock star that holds down the face of the office. So if you have any questions, feel free to go back and ask them. It's a daily struggle in this community based on the staffing and budgetary needs to be able to handle the needs of the community, but we still continue to move forward. We've had some issues this year, obviously. We've had some struggles, but we will continue to move forward to provide the best customer service for the community and be safety and protectors in the community.
Thanks for coming tonight. Is this working? There we go. So, Megan, wave at everybody. If you haven't had a chance to stop by our finance table and say hi to Megan, you should do that. And if you take a treasurer's report, she'll give you a piece of candy. Oh. See if this works better. Can you hear me there? So I came to the city of Shelton mid-December of 2016, really because I really wanted to try to make a positive difference. And I have to say, seeing all of you here, to me, is really encouraging. I think with all of the things that are going on with the city, it is making a positive difference, and I'm happy to be part of that. In finance, we've been pretty busy. We really are focusing on 3 things in finance right now, and those 3 things are accountability, transparency, and efficiency. When you talk about accountability, a couple of the big things we've really focused on this year is getting something called positive pay in place, and it's an electronic check monitoring system that was not in place. And that system prevents people from altering checks that have been written to them, prevents people from doing things like cashing checks twice. It's just a really good safeguard tool, and it really improves accountability for the city. It safeguards our cash assets. We also implemented for all of the employees something called direct deposit. Direct deposit is another tool that improves accountability and makes the money that we have more safe. It also saves our employees time and money, because now they don't have to drive to the bank and wait in line to cash their check or do deposit or whatever they're going to do. So that's been a positive both for the city staff and for all of our employees, saving time and money there, and making, again, the money that we have more secure. In the area of transparency, one of the things that I found when I started here was that we didn't have our financial software. We have really good financial software, but we did not have it fully implemented and fully up and running. And so the finance team has really stepped up and done a phenomenal job of helping to get that financial software really up and running to its full capacity. One of the components of that was reconciling all of our bank accounts. We have some investment accounts, and we have our main account at the bank, and that wasn't completely set up in the system. And they worked, Elaine Merca, one of our staff accountants, worked really hard to get that up to date and current. And because of that, and because of the other staff members' work, we now have all of the finance reports from 2016 done and through the first half of 2017, and that's what Megan has a short version of there at the desk for you to look at if you want to see a treasurer's report. That's really been a big help to us. So now we have a better understanding of where we are, because if you don't know where you're at right now, it's kind of hard to map where you're going to go financially. So that has been a positive for all of us. As far as efficiency, one of the big things we've done earlier this year is we converted the city of Shelton from an accrual basis of accounting to a cash basis of accounting. What that means essentially is it changes reporting processes from reporting when you bill and when you receive bills to when the cash moves. It's a much simpler system. For the size that this city is, it really should be on a cash basis. And I spent a fair amount of time talking with the state auditors about this, and I got 2 thumbs up from everybody at the state auditor's office I talked to that, yeah, you should be on a cash basis. City of Seattle, it makes sense to be on an accrual basis, but for the size of city that we have, cash is the way to go. And that process is now complete. That conversion was quite the monster, and Megan and the rest of the finance team did a great job helping to get that conversion done. And we had to get that done before we could generate the finance reports. So it's kind of a process we've been going through to get all these pieces in place. One of the other things that we're focusing on moving forward is for those people who have businesses in town. How many people here have businesses in town? Got some, okay. One of the things we're looking at is working with the State Department of Revenue, and they have a business licensing service that's going to streamline your business licensing process quite a bit. It's going to make that a lot easier. So we're going to be working with them in the coming months to get that service up and running. We're also looking at a web-based permitting tool that will allow people who are requesting permits to be able to check online and see the status of those permits. And we're looking at we have right now the ability for people to pay their utility bills online. But what you can't really do is see what your history is, look at your old bills. We're working on, with our financial software provider, we're actually working on a web-based utility billing payment system that will allow you to look at all your history and see what your utility usage is, so you'll have more complete information. So those are just some of the things we have. Somebody likes that idea.
I really like that.
Yay! So that's some of the things we have going on in finance. I have to say thanks to the finance team. They've been awesome. Thanks.
Good evening. My name is Mark Ziegler. I'm Director of Community Development. Most of you might know me in the Parks and Recreation field for the last 24 or so years. But it's my pleasure to serve in Community Development, which incorporates Parks and Recreation still at this time. There's a number of different divisions, I guess, within Community Development. One is the Planning Department, flexibility within our community, so we have like facilities, like structures within the same areas of the city, and we don't have necessarily industrial uses in the middle of residential uses. The building department is a division as well. We ensure that the now the 2015 code is adhered to, and these are really life safety issues. Some people might not agree necessarily that the code might go too far, but it's a code that has been adopted and brought down from the state, actually the National Code Council, and really ensures that the structures that you have and you live in are going to be safe for years to come, not just while you're here, while you're living in the facility, but maybe the next house you buy or the next person that buys that house as well. Again, Parks and Recreation, another division. In 2010, city residents generously passed a Metropolitan Park District to fund parks and recreation services in the community. The city of Shelton is the contract provider with the Metropolitan Park District, so we didn't see much change really at all. That funding mechanism took place in 2010 to fund any of the services that we provide. So multi-generation recreation programs, maintain our facilities such as the popular ones of Neyland Park, Townland Park, and Field, all fall within the city. And the Teresa Johnson Memorial Trail is another one of our popular facilities that we maintain and operate throughout the year. Facilities management department, so this is really an internal department that maintains and operates all the facilities, all the buildings within the city. So our custodial staff, our facility maintenance staff, facility manager, that ensures that the community's investment, which is this building, the library, the museum, buildings like that, are maintained and operated to their fullest ability, and we're not seeing depreciation on those buildings, and we don't have to replace them anytime before it's necessary. There's a couple little divisions as well, like the Historic Preservation Committee, Historic Preservation Board, that we staff as well, that ensures that historic structures are maintained, and the integrity of those historic structures in the city of Shelton are maintained, and the Shelton Arts Commission, which promotes public art within the city of Shelton. A few recent accomplishments we've had is one is really important, I think, in the customer service realm, as Craig and Nolan and everybody up here has talked about, is customer service is really important, really a focus on community development and bringing in house building official here, be within the offices here, answer questions, be more approachable than the previous contract service we had. We contract out, somebody who's outside of the office, they would come in, do their inspections, go back to their office outside the city limits, but we couldn't really provide the service when somebody came in and had a question. Maybe they had a home improvement or a builder had some questions about plans they're submitting. So now we have a building official in-house. We're seeing permit times really decrease. We're getting those out in a couple weeks now, 2 to 3, depending how busy we are. And then previously it was at least a month or so to get those building permits out. So that really gets people moving, gets repairs done quicker, gets the economy moving much more quicker. Comprehensive plan, as I mentioned before, in planning, we're just coming to the end of a rewrite of our comprehensive plan. It's a long process. It really is the roadmap and the framework for the entire city. We've got a couple additions to the UGA, which is the Darcy out on Dayton Matlock School District. They've got obviously some big projects coming up with the passage of their bond measure. So we're really working hand in hand to help them get to the finish line, which is opening those schools, those new schools in September of 2019. So we're making sure that that all the processes are being followed up front, and that we can do our best to help them achieve that goal. Working on online permit software, so a builder or a homeowner can submit online applications for a building permit. We've taken the first step by adding Bluebeam, which is a software program that allows our building official to review plans electronically. It used to be, the old rolled up plans. You bring 3 or 4 of those in and submit them to the city. Now we can actually take electronic versions of that. Building official can mark those up on the computer, get those out in a timely manner. It's more efficient for city staff. It's more efficient for the applicant as well. Along with the future Eagle Point expansion, we also are really interested in promoting sports tourism in this community, working through the Recreation Department, through the Metropolitan Park District to help bring more people to this community, give more opportunities for folks to recreate and take advantage of the great facilities that we have here in this community. Questions right now? Okay. A couple of the questions I have for tonight is specific to permit processing. So there's basically 3 ways to go about how we process permits, and the balance between processing the permit and the fee that's actually charged. So again, as Ryan had you go through some questions before, these are all on your little touchpads there. The first option is A, which is cheap or / slow. Permit fees are below the cost of service subsidized by existing property owners. So that essentially is saying that permit fees would not cover the adequate amount of staff it would take to process those in a rapid manner. So there's some delay. You might be waiting in line for the permits to come out. B is a balanced permit process. Permit fees paid for the service provided, essentially. So whatever level of permit number of permits come in, those fees that are associated with each permit would pay for the staffing necessary to process those in a timely manner. And then maybe fast. One thing we haven't done, but some other communities have done, is if you have a permit, you want it expedited, you're willing to pay a little bit more to have that permit expedited so you can get on with your project. Okay. There we go. Balance right in the middle. Pretty good. So this is really interesting because this is kind of the approach that we've taken in the past. So it's nice that we're moving along those lines that the community is most interested in. It's interesting that there is some folks that are interested in the expedited permit process. One of the things that the planning department also does is manage city code, and we've been hand in hand with code enforcement and nuisance violations. And nuisance violations can be anything from grass that's knee-high, derelict vehicle in your yard, trash maybe accumulating, something like that. And we've really had a stance where we really want to know what type of enforcement activity that the community would want. Answer A is basically complaint-based. We receive a call, the city goes out and addresses that nuisance issue, or B, proactively seek out the nuisances where we have city staff actually out looking for those nuisances.
I don't know.
Oh, look at that. Interesting. So, and we do a little bit of both right now and have traditionally. When we receive a complaint, we react to that, we investigate it. Sometimes it goes to the police department, sometimes it's a letter from our planning department. Sometimes it's proactively where we're already out and about in the city and notice a nuisance that might need to be taken care of, that's a health and safety issue to a resident or a neighbor, and those are addressed at that time. We have one more, right, Andy? So this talks about really how aggressive once that nuisance violation has come in. We really strive for cooperative compliance when we address a nuisance violation. A is a warning only, seek voluntary compliance, which is always the first step. Work with the homeowner, work with the resident. B is a warning first, and then seeking voluntary compliance, followed up by fines and non-compliant. Sometimes we have some residents that don't always comply, and it becomes more and more laborious for city staff to seek compliance. And then obviously C is a little more aggressive, a fine right away, notifying them of their violation, or their nuisance violation, and addressing that right away most aggressively. So be interested to hear your responses. Yeah, thank you, appreciate it. And that's really where we've been operating. So it's nice to see that we're operating as folks see fit. Thanks.
Good evening, I'm Tim Burke, the Chief of Central Mason Fire. I won't have any questions for how's everybody doing? Okay, stand up. Stand up. Can you give me a second? Can you stretch your leg for a minute? Don't go anywhere, just stand up. You can have a seat. I'm glad you're here tonight, and I'm going to give you a couple of statistics. I'm also going to, as Mark said, about different plans. We're going to talk about that as well. So in the city, just so you know, we have 1,900 interior responses for service that we've done so far this year. And that equates to about 7.13 a day. And we're doing those right around basically 82% of them are in the city or EMS fault as well. In our district, which we cover just outside, we cover also a larger district as well, we've got 4,191 responses for service. That's up 10% from last year. Can you hear me now? Good? There we go. And that runs about 15.70 a day. So that's great numbers. I mean, we're really cracking along there. So people I'll introduce real quick. In the far back is Deputy Chief Fire Marshal Mike Patty. Stop by and see him today. He's doing a great job here. He doesn't think I'm going to pick on him, but I will. I have one of our captains in the audience, and I appreciate him coming in. Captain Casey Whitehouse is in the back of the audience, back there kind of listening, making sure I say everything right, so it's right on the right track here. So, what I want to talk about tonight a little bit is we kind of did a coin flip and I lost. Chief Moody didn't win, so there you go. But we're going to talk about hazard mitigation. How many of you have heard, of course you have, you listened to things, you've heard earthquakes, you've heard the hurricanes that have occurred, you've heard wildfire seasons. Well, it's time. We have our mitigation plans that we have to review as the comp plan. We talked about those. So behind you, you're going to see some maps, and you're going to say, oh my goodness, what are all those maps? But a lot of those maps are really the places and hazard mitigations and places where earthquakes happen, places where fires and floods happen, and we want to make sure that you folks get a chance to do that. Are you prepared? Are you ready to go? And I will tell you, the gentleman standing back there is Ross McDowell. He's our emergency manager.
Hey, Ross.
Okay? And the city actually contracts with Ross and the folks in Tammy back there. They're folks from the Department of Emergency Management. And we've got to put this mitigation plan and put some risk together. So I encourage you, are you ready? That's our number one question to you. And the second part is stop back by there, ask some questions, look at some maps, see where you're located, and kind of go through that whole process. We've done a kind of a fairly rapid response to that. We've got to get out and meet groups and educate them and talk about the hazard mitigations as we go through them. The last piece I'd like to talk to you is we're not located in this building. We're located over behind the post office over there. Stop by and see us. How many of you had a blood pressure check? Stop in, take a look at us as well. We offer those services as well. We offer address markers and also CPR and first aid classes. And so we encourage you to stop by and see us over there. Just come by and say hi. We'd rather see you smiling facing walking in the door in case we do want to run a very serious spot. So take a look around your homes as you're being there. You know, even though we've dropped the burn ban, this is Mike's little plug, and we said it's okay for records for fire, the temperature tomorrow is going to be what? We're back up to 80 again. The land's still dry out there, so let's be careful for a few more days and make sure we have a safe time. So thank you, and look forward to your questions.
promised one thing, and that was that I was going to get your remotes back. So please take a moment. We're done with questions. Those are on loan from an important agency that would not work with us again if we didn't get it back. So if you would, please, Logan's going to grab from this side. So on this side of the room, pass them over to the outside. And on this side, Andy will grab the remotes. We'll take a moment to do that. And that is it for us. So now we'll take your questions. We have a mic up front, and then if you have any mobility issues that you need a mic brought to you, just raise your hand and Andy will bring one over to you. But with that, you can fire away with all the questions you have.
Good evening. Thank you for a wonderful Is that on? Okay. For a wonderful presentation. Appreciate all the information. I'm here to address code enforcement and the communication to the neighbors and the neighborhoods that complain when there is a problem. I sent an email a couple weeks ago about a perpetual violator who keeps bringing old trailers and renting her property out, and I got no response. I find out tonight that someone has been out there, but there's been no communication, and I think that's important. Many years ago, we had a drug problem at residence that the neighbors were very vigilant in calling the police and letting them know when there were people there and there were problems. And eventually, with that cooperation, we got rid of them. So it's important for you to work with the neighbors and at least respond so that we know that something's going on and we don't get hot-headed. And because it's important for us all to work together, and we very much appreciate it.
I think I know the house you're talking about. Mason?
And Eleanor, yeah.
Who'd you send the email to?
Jeff, I've got the email. I'll give you a copy of it.
Okay, because that happens sometimes too. Obviously, it's just like a company in the city here. So sometimes emails get sent to other departments, and then they don't get forwarded on to the other department or one department. We're getting much better at this city. I can tell you I've only been here 3 years, but we're getting very good at communication in this city instead of working just in individual departments. Mark and I are teaming up on code enforcement and starting to get that piece put together. And I only inherited code enforcement probably 3 months ago. But like I said, we're working pretty tight, and we will. If you send emails into the police department, I'll give you my card when you leave, and we've been out to visit her. In fact, I can tell you the city manager and I went out and visited her yesterday.
Yeah, and even though you think it's being taken care of, I've been there for 22 years.
I know.
And she keeps doing it.
And we met with her
And
yesterday.
there's, vagrants, and there's people begging in the mornings, and who knows, I had a 100-year-old neighbor who had a burglary several years ago, and we think, can't prove it, but it's all these different
I wouldn't
people
doubt
in
it.
the neighborhood.
I wouldn't doubt it. And I sympathize with what you're saying. But the other part of this is we also have to go onto private property, and to pull things off of private property becomes a logistical lawyer involvement. And so I would love, trust me, if somebody put up a little Twitter up there that said, can we just go on private property and start towing these things off? I'm in. But
I understand.
but-
I just want to make sure that at least they're addressed and the people are being held accountable to some degree.
Absolutely.
So they know they just can't waltz around and do whatever they want.
You've got 2 departments in the city working on it right now. In fact, I called the sheriff's office today, their eviction person for civil division, and had them come over and discuss it with us today of how to try and get the people in those trailers evicted. Because once you squat or once you become renters on a property, it has to go through an eviction process. And so that's where the challenge becomes, especially when you have a passive homeowner like she is, who says, yeah, I rented the backyard and they're living back there in a trailer. So we're working on it.
Thank you, I appreciate
You
it.
betcha.
And before you go, it's not to say that we did a good job in the past, because we didn't. So I apologize.
Well,
that
no,
we
no,
felt like
at
this.
least, to know that it's being addressed, and if it had been communicated, I would have felt a lot better, and hopefully that'll be happening. When someone sends an email, at least respond and say, we're looking into it, thank you very much, or something to
That
that
part
effect.
we can fix. I will say that about 6 months ago, Mark and I sat down. Mark's department used to handle code enforcement exclusively, we sat down and actually restructured his department. And one of the things you don't see in an agency like this is that Mark agreed to lose a position so that Darren could gain a position and we could put a little more teeth into code enforcement. So it's getting better, but obviously the communication could have been better in that situation.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Hi. My name's Terry Hedstrom. I live next door to the house that she's talking about. We moved in the house next door in '85, and it's been going on since 1985. Once you get these people out, they come back a week or two later. This year is the first year we've had rats on our property. Cindy does not let these people in the house. It's taboo. So when they have to go to the bathroom, they go to the back lot. I've seen little girls carrying toilet paper back there. There's needles back there. It's a known drug house. People in and out all the time. And I don't understand this eviction thing.
Sorry, I missed the address when you started. Or it's the
I'm
same house.
Same house.
I can tell you Cindy collects rent from them.
I know.
And Cindy's the one we talked to yesterday.
But you guys don't get to go in the backyard
Correct.
because it's private property.
Correct.
And I have told the code enforcement and the sheriff, police, whoever come in our yard. Anytime. Look over the fence. Bikes, bicycle parts, stolen stuff, copper wire has all been back there. I got proof, I got the pictures. Known convicts have been there. Very undesirable people coming and going up and down the street all times of the night, fighting, yelling. It's got to stop. And it seems to me an eviction, when you say eviction, or the process of getting them out, in some cases shouldn't be that. That's all I have to say.
I'm going to beat a dead horse because I'm going to talk
Go
again.
right ahead.
Thank you. My name is Deidre Sigmund, and I'm the owner of 1422.
Lower the mic a little bit.
I'm the owner of 1422. I was born here, and I was raised in the house at 1422 Mason Street. I left and came back in '93. It's a horrendous situation, and it happens all the time. I came to the City Hall meeting the other day, and I spoke. I personally got a 300-gallon can and emptied that can 3 times, paid my own money so I could sell that piece of property. It's under owner contract currently, my 1422. This happens every single year. It has got to stop. I come in the morning and feed cats. My son lives around the corner there on Dearborn Street, and I'm accosted every morning for cigarettes, for money. And things happen all hours of the night. There's 2 brand new families that live in on the corner. One is afraid to come out of her house. And we have to go through the eviction notice. They should not have been there in the first place. If things were patrolled like your sign says, your little thing, that they saw a nuisance, that you guys are around there quite a bit, I see, just down the street. So I know you have seen it. Thank you.
Like I said before, I 100% agree with you, but let me give you a couple things. We haven't been perfect. We haven't always done things right at the city. We haven't always been perfect and done things right in the police department. I've been here almost 3 years, and in that time, this came to light to me only in the last few months. And so the other part of this is something that obviously didn't happen overnight. We can't fix overnight, but we will do our best, and we will keep trying. You keep pestering all you want. You come at me all you need to keep me on target with this, but we will keep working on it for you.
I have called code enforcement 2 months ago, and he said he was going to come out the next day and
We did. Like I said, there are a lot of complicated laws that work into this, and we can't just give you a notice, and especially if the owner gives you permission to be there. And so it would be like me coming onto anybody else's property and you saying this person can stay at my house, and me saying, no, they can't get out. I think it's a huge health issue. Like I said, I don't write the law, I just got to follow it. And I would love to be able to walk into some of these properties and go, you, out, done. But I can't, and that my hands are tied. There are things that we're going to do, and like I said, you have my word that we're going to try and move forward with this as fast as we can, but there's a process that we have to follow on it. The owner of the property, but we're working with her to try and get it filled out for her and through us, through civil matters. There's two different courts, criminal law and civil court, and part of this is going to be a civil issue, and part of it's going to be a criminal issue, and we're going to work on both sides of it. You know what, ma'am? Like I said, I totally sympathize and feel the empathy towards what you're doing. I would love to come out and move them out tomorrow, but unfortunately, I'd be in Casey's jail if I did that. You know what, the neighbors are pretty powerful. If you'd like to set some time to come in and talk to me, or I can meet with you somewhere, and we can sit down and start mapping some things out that the neighborhood can help with, that would help out quite a bit. Thank you.
I just have two questions because I don't know the answers to them. The first is how much or how many chickens are allowed on a city property? Just out of curiosity. And the, well, I'm trying to think. The second one, actually, it's more of a compliment. I wanted to thank the city. You've done the paving from the bottom of the hill on Pioneer Way up to the end of Lake Boulevard. We have sidewalks. You see people walking on them. You see children being safe, waiting to get picked up for school. The neighbors themselves have taken a great deal of interest in maintaining and cleaning up their properties. And I think that the more you do that in Shelton, it's like anything else. It spreads. The pride spreads. I'm pleased to see that after, I don't know, I've only lived here 25 years, so I don't remember the old bowling alley. I remember the new old bowling alley that burnt down. But the old bowling alley that's still there, I've always worried that it was just going to be a fire hazard, and not just for that empty building or people who might be staying in it illegally or whatever, but to the other neighbors in that particular area. And I like Domino's Pizza, so that's important. But I wanted to thank you for the things that you have done. The work with United Way for the annual Day of Caring. I've participated in that both years. I've worked in my neighborhood separately on my own just to try and meet neighbors, because it's very surprising how few people really know who's on their left and their right unless they've lived here their whole life. And I know all my neighbors, and I would just encourage the city to do that. There was something that came out today, and it talked about things that you could do to improve the city. And I hope that the Shelton Journal can help by doing some of that. I'd like to see the high school be more involved in the kids, because this is their town. You've all come back here to live. I chose to live here. I wasn't born here, and I chose to live in Shelton. And I've been here for 25 years, and I'm delighted. But I'm really delighted with the changes I've seen in the last 2 to 3 years. And I want to thank all of you for that.
I'm sorry, I had to confer with the chicken expert over here to get the answer to your question. So we had this discussion for the last several months, and
why do they cross the road?
you know,
They do that too.
this is true. So technically, our code says no chickens unless you have an acre property. However, similar to what the poll Mark did up here is how much code enforcement and how do you want things done. And so we've said for years, it seems like in the city, is they've kind of given have a few of them as long as they don't get out of hand. And so what I've told our code enforcement and our animal control is there is a part about them running loose. And if you've got them pinned, and I tell people all the time, out of sight, out of mind with those type of things. If you've got 3 chickens in your backyard in a pen and your neighbors aren't complaining about it, they're not out running loose and messing all over the place, then we probably won't be contacted. But the ones that we rounded up, I can tell you this person had about 20, and they were running through the yards of everybody else. And so we just told them, if you can't keep them pinned up, we're going to take them. So technically,
Hi, I'm Mary Hartline, and I now reside within the city limits. And I want to thank everybody here tonight for the open forum. It's really been enlightening. It's kind of nice to know what's going on in our community, and it's nice to be able to participate. And I'm glad there's...
We can't hear.
Oh.
Can you move it closer?
And I'm glad there's a great big turnout. Yeah. So, and I'd like to thank all the people in the community who've been working on projects within the city. I see them happening all the time, like in the cemetery, cleanup days that are going on. There's some people working on the railroad tracks, cleaning those out and putting gravel in so people can walk on those, creating walking paths, that sort of thing. And I think maybe sometimes the county could maybe solicit some of that community help too from other people on some of your projects. My sister and I walk all the time. We're avid walkers in the city. It'd be nice though to have people remove their cars off the sidewalks so that people can walk safely on the streets. We almost saw a little girl on her bicycle get hit the other day because the sidewalk was blocked with a car. And so I would say that to you. I also don't know who to talk to, but I've called several departments, and that there are a number of us neighbors on 12th Street, and I've noticed from 7th to 12th Street, we've been paying for storm sewer drainage, and we don't have storm sewer drains. We've asked over and over for our streets to be paved because we put up with dust, terrible dust in the summer, and the big mud holes in the winter. And so if somebody could direct me to who I should talk to, because I have talked to the road department, and they just said, well, you're being maintained, so as long as you don't have potholes, you're okay. But I don't think they understand the level of dust that comes down the road.
You're on what street?
I'm on
7th to
12th, but I've noticed since I walk that it's all the way from 7th to 12th.
On what road?
On,
Intersecting road of 12.
okay, Coda.
Okay.
So 7th, yeah, 7th is paved, so it's 8th, 9th, and 10th, and 11th, 12th.
Sure. And we
Yeah.
are trying to, your first question about cars parked on the sidewalk, we are trying to start to move towards getting some of those sidewalks redone. The commission actually approved our sidewalk rehabilitation, and they actually put $20,000 into that fund a couple years ago. So we're trying to get some of those that are level sidewalks with the parking strip raised with a curb so that you can't pull onto them. We understand that that is an issue, and we are trying to address the walkability of Shelton. And through the Transportation Improvement Board, we've actually looked at some other options for grant funding to try to get some of those sidewalks paved. As far as your road goes, we have started a road rating program that engineering team has been working on. You can see on the map that we've got over there for looking ahead to 2018, the roads that are on there that are scheduled to be paved. And we are looking at paving around 20 blocks per year. That's been our goal.
Okay.
And we're going to continue to do that in the residential areas.
Okay,
So,
and do you know where we can check to see if when we might go on the schedule for paving?
Logan Brady is back with us in the Engineering and Public Works Department, and he can answer that question maybe for you, or at least get some contact info that we can check into and get back to you.
Okay, and I also wanted to say that we also pick up garbage because there's a lot of garbage on the road, but there aren't as many receptacles. I mean, we have to wait until we get right downtown to dump the garbage.
Here, here.
And so, I mean, otherwise, they're, you know, we just pick up garbage because it's awful.
We appreciate you picking up the garbage. But yeah, the reason, just for those cans that are out there, we try to get them centralized in the most populated areas of downtown that get the most traffic. And really, at this point, it's a cost issue to just place those throughout neighborhoods.
Oh, okay.
So we can certainly take a look at that and see what the financial implications are for maybe spreading some more of those out.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
If you haven't looked at the screen last few minutes, I think that's pretty funny. What someone I think Annie did a good job with all these technical things now that made it. Randy Lewis, I'm also a SHS graduate. It was nice to see that 45% are Shelton graduates. Last week, Ryan presented what I thought was a cool graphic, all the leadership team with the Shelton High School logo on it. So all but the two of them, which are doing an amazing job for very critical roles, keeping people safe and tracking the money. By the way, that was a very thrilling discussion on cash versus gap accounting. I really enjoyed that. Also, I think Railroad Avenue was beautiful. I'm glad it was one of the first things that was done. It's really the core of the community, so you want that to be a beautiful thing. When I talk to friends about it, I call it Craig Gregory Railroad Avenue. I do have a brief question, not about chickens. It's kind of a math question, but I think it'll be easy. As you know, the New Mason County garbage invoices show a 5% utility tax and a charge labeled service. This service charge includes the actual Mason County garbage service charge plus an additional 26% utility tax. My question is 26% of what? Is the 26 applied against the charge labeled service on the bill, or is it applied to the true Mason County garbage service charge?
At the current time, the bill reflects the exact same billing that was done when the city ran solid waste department. But
Right.
if you'll hold on one second, but we are taking a look to make sure that it accurately reflects the information that was presented to the commission. So we're under review there, but what people see right now is the exact same bill they had before.
No, I understand that, but inside the same number, how much of that is utility tax? How much of that is the Mason County service is the question.
I think you listed the 26% and the 5% tax?
Yeah, but the 26% is embedded inside what's called service. But is it 26% of what? Is it the number shown on the bill, or is it the embedded number, which is what Mason County garbage charges? That's the question.
So like I said, we're taking a look at where those percentages lie and make sure that the billing that people are getting now is accurate. If you'll hold on one second, I'll answer that question. Sure. But if there's a specific question about what the calculation looks like, we can certainly send that out so everybody can see it.
Okay. So you can't say now? Or is the percentage liable to change, or is it going to be 26%?
Any percentage change would have to go through the commission.
Right.
So that would be presented in front of the commission.
Right. So if it's 26%, the question is 26% of what? That seems like a simple question to answer.
26% of the base cost for the customer. So it's going to depend on each customer. So
26%.
One person that has a larger bill is obviously going to pay a little bit more.
So how is the base defined? Is it the service charge shown on the bill, or is it the Mason County garbage share of that charge? Which one is the base that the 26% is applied against?
You've confused me. So, Craig?
I'm thoroughly confused myself, so if you could restate your question, because I'm not able to follow what you're actually asking. It is 20% of the base rate, and it's at 31% overall utility tax.
So how do you define the base rate? What is that? Is that the service charge number on the bill?
So you've got a service fee on the bill.
Right.
Your charges for service. which would be the base rate plus 26% of that base rate, and that would be your overall service charge.
Okay. So there's a base rate times 26%, or you add 26% of that base rate, and that comes up to the number that's shown on the bill. Is that what you're saying?
By chance, do you happen to have your City of Shelton bill with you?
No, but I just want to make sure.
Have you seen a City of Shelton bill?
Yeah, I've seen.
For solid waste?
I've seen those bills, but it's hard to, all that's being showed is a service charge. Inside that service charge is I think is a Mason County garbage charge plus the 26% utility tax charge. So my question, you were saying it's a base rate. Is it the Mason County garbage charge embedded, or is the base rate defined as the number on the bill?
I'm not sure if anybody from Mason County Garbage is here to talk about their bill, but if you bring in your bill from the City of Shelton, we can take a look at it, because I'm not sure that I quite follow that first question.
I think it's simple. So is the tax 26% of the number on the bill? Yes or no? Can you answer that question?
One more time?
There's a number on the bill labeled service. Is that the base rate you apply the 26% against? Yes or no?
No, that is not. That is the base rate plus the 26% that is embedded within that base rate, and that gives you your service charge, and then you've got some other miscellaneous fees at the bottom of the bill, the 5% utility tax and the 3.6% refuse tax. So if you look at that bill, yes, the overall is 26% plus the base rate, which is the service rate, and then you've got your other miscellaneous charges at the bottom of the bill.
Thanks, that answers my question.
Thanks.
Can I send you an example and you can kind of validate for me?
Sure, you certainly can.
We got somebody else that wanted to talk, and I'm going to give her the microphone so she doesn't have to bring the dog up. How's that?
Okay, thank you. Thank you. My name is Tristan, and I live in Hillcrest area, and there are so many wonderful things happening in our city. I am so excited. Things are improving in all areas. The city looks beautiful. And in my community, Hillcrest, people are out and about, walking their dogs, exercising and walking and getting around. And I'm here also to talk about walking. Many people in my community, for the size of our neighborhood, actually access where they're going by using wheelchairs. We have a few people that use walkers, canes, and children, and then moms with strollers and kids going to the school. And we have sidewalks, which is really wonderful. And we do have the same problem with people parking on the sidewalks, and I see that's being addressed. But one of my main concerns is, especially in the rainy season or when it's foggy, some of our main corners where there's sidewalks on Summit and Bellevue or Summit and Cascade, it floods. It floods seriously because even though workers come out and cut the grass, and we have the municipal court picking up, which is a wonderful service, the sod is so overgrown that it backs up on the sidewalk, and with the leaves it becomes extremely slippery. So we're all out and about in the fog, accessing those corners, and we're very busy with our school buses and Mason County Transit. So I feel redundant mentioning this because it seems like you're already on top of it. So thank you very much for your efforts with the neighborhood projects. But I would like to see maybe something go this winter so I could feel a little safe. There are a lot of issues with health, insurance, things going on. So nobody wants to be re-injured or fall, you know. So I just thought maybe I would bring it to your attention. And I can't thank you all enough. And I love the code enforcement little car. So
Tristan is a member of the Historic Preservation Board who also came in a few months ago and completed a task that we had had on our to-do list for a very long time by tagging all the historic properties in town so that whenever a file is pulled, we know which one we're talking about. So thank you for doing that.
My name's Dean Jewett. I'm here with my wife Jackie, lifelong residents, love Shelton. I always swore I was going to leave the one-horse town, and I never did. I'm glad I didn't. Two thank yous. Mark and Chief Patty, Jason, had the pleasure of having them down to our building. We bought a building downtown that we're doing some renovating on. So I just want to thank you guys for that. Good people. Had the pleasure of meeting your code enforcement officer. We had some issues with some garbage in the alley and stuff. As soon as the code enforcement officer was down, that has completely ceased and desist. So two big thank yous, and then a question. The Red Barn building. It's kind of my favorite. It's a pet peeve. And I know that there's an abatement fund. So I was kind of curious as where does that abatement fund get funded from? And is that abatement fund ever going to be used for that building? I was contacted by the city to maybe do a deconstruction on that. That's kind of what I specialize in versus doing a demolition, and be able to pay back the community with some of those materials. And then it just kind of fell, and I haven't heard anything since. So I just was kind of curious if you could answer that. But again, thank you very much.
I think it's my turn, right? Everybody else got it. Thanks, Dean. Appreciate it. The abatement fund is something that I guess isn't funded at this point. So there is an abatement line item in the budget. It's not funded. Those funds were expended on other abatement projects because of the cost of the Red Barn, the old bowling alley on First Street. Yep, exactly. The old Shelton Pub for those of you that have been around here a while. It is an expensive abatement. It is still private property. It's not under city ownership. The property owners do have rights. As Chief Moody was mentioning before, we do have to follow the law. They do have rights. We are working with the property owner to hopefully get to a conclusion. It's not a quick process, much like some of the code enforcement issues out in the neighborhoods. In the commercial area, it's not a quick process at all. We're hoping that maybe the economy might spur some more activity. There's more interest in some of these buildings. We've done our best to work with the property owners to keep it boarded up at least, so it doesn't become,
Transit apartment.
Transit population living in it or whatnot. So we are active in that. We hope to have some more engagement with that and re-engage that abatement process again too, because it is a tool that was successful in the past. And as I mentioned, we're seeing more and more of these buildings that have fallen disrepair being sold now. Some of the bank possession properties, just some of the properties that are blights that are being sold and renovated and back out, getting back out on the market soon. So hopefully the economy is going to help some of that abatement process that the cities had to take an active role in.
Bring me in the loop anytime.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, my name is Dan Coleman, and we're new to the area. We live on the south end of South 12th, just south of Coda. The water runs down the dirt street and straight into my yard. Is there any chance that they're going to do some kind of a storm sewer through there so my front yard isn't underwater half the winter?
That's certainly something we can take a look at. There's not a lot of storm infrastructure down in that area once you get south of Coda. So we could certainly look at maybe a dry well or some other type of preventive measure, at least getting us through this winter until maybe we can connect that to the actual main line. But we'll have to look at the soils, and if you wouldn't mind leaving your information, your contact information with Logan, who's back at Public Works, and we'll see what we can do to get out there and get that taken care of.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, some of you know me. I'm Shelley Barnett. I have Off the Walls Gallery on 7th and Railroad. I'm also head of the Retailers Alliance of Downtown Shelton. I have several things. I'm here to give you the business, and I'm talking about the business side of downtown Shelton. Number one, you're talking about attracting developers to the area and lowering their permits. It's not going to happen if this place doesn't look like it's a thriving, exciting place to build. I would not build a house here because There's nothing happening here. The city has not supported signs on the highway. We've heard talk about it. I have talked about it for 3 years with the city. I have talked about it for 3 years with the chamber. I would like to see it happen. If we could have the downtown look thriving and exciting, developers would build here, and you would get more money coming into the permit department of your area. Number 2, I would like to see communication improved. When there is work going to be done in front of the small businesses or events, it would be nice to have communication happen with ahead of time, so we know that our parking is going to be affected, so we can let our customers know. Number 3, the signal at 7th and Railroad has been changed 5 times in the last 2 months of where the directions are going, how the timing of the lights are fixed. Please come and sit on my bench out on my porch and watch how that traffic happens. I have seen so many near-miss accidents happen because they can't figure out where the arrows are. Number 2, the emergency vehicles that come through that area almost get hit by other cars because they have their air conditioning and their radios on. There's nothing on top of the signals that signify that there is an emergency vehicle approaching that the second busiest intersection in town. Number 3, I would love to see Coda Street put on there for repaving, because that is the road to City Hall. The signs say to City Hall and the Civic Center, and this is where events happen in this town. It would be nice to have that speed bump or speed ditch that happens on First and Coda, because this is the gateway to Shelton. And you guys, you know, I'm excited to see that this forum is happening. I really want to continue doing business here. 2 businesses approached me last week and came into my business, said they're in the danger of closing. 2 other businesses closed a couple weeks ago. We have to do something about this downtown area, and I want to know how you're going to approach it. Also, the recent break-ins that happened, it would be nice to have been alerted by the city that this happened instead of finding out from the businesses themselves. So we're a small community. We've got to talk to each other.
I'm going to need your list. So the first one, I agree, the signs are very important. This year we actually funded, through our lodging tax, we funded a $13,000 request through the chamber. So the chamber does have the ability to go out and put those signs on the highway, and we are in communication with them and hoping that they're actually going to follow through on that. The second one about communicating when we're going to do construction, we're trying, but sometimes we do miss it. I will say that in the last year, we have added 4 variable message boards, so the boards that we're able to put up to tell people that construction's occurring or going to occur, those were added for the first time. Andy probably deals with Facebook updates and Twitter updates more than he would like to, so we're doing that for the first time. But there are times when we do fail to get that message out, so when those happen, we do apologize. Third question about Coda Street. Craig's addressed a little bit about that. We're aware of the spot that you're talking about, so that is one that you can mention with Logan, and he can follow up to see where that is on the list. The traffic in front of your business, I've actually sat on the other side in front of the dog grooming place a number of times. I think 3 people in this room called me the weekend that we did, one of them was my wife when she got stuck in that light. But 3 people called me to explain that that light had been ruined since we went through and did the Railroad Avenue updates. And it was difficult to get through. We have done a number of changes. The way it works now is substantially better than what it was, but we do have a light down there that we're going to have to address at some point. We probably should have done in the past.
Right.
What else is on your list?
Well, the emergency vehicles were a big, I mean, when they approach that, they come down from the hospital, the ambulances.
We're talking about police or fire?
I'm talking about ambulances coming down from, you know, up by the library, and they're trying to approach that intersection, and but the light is green coming through Railroad.
Sure. Okay.
It should be, yeah,
We'll take
a warning.
Anything else on there?
What about your sidewalks? I mean, not your sidewalks, but your crosswalks. The crosswalks, I have a business on 4th and Railroad, and I can't tell you how many times I see people almost get hit.
Yes.
People do not
pedestrians.
I will stand there on the corner and wait and wait and wait. Sometimes I'll go, okay, I'm going out anyway, and almost get hit. People do not stop, so can we get those flashing lights or something?
It's possible. We tried. I will say, I feel like I may cross that street more than anybody else in town since I live and work downtown. And I have a different experience, but I know that there are times when people don't stop. So there is the potential that we could put the rapid flashers up. We did, as staff, we did put that forward, and that did not fly. And for a number of reasons, I think that we had about a 50-50 split when we brought that forward. So if it's something you're interested in, certainly bring it up, and we can take a look again. I will say that that's not the spot. So the busiest spot in town is actually down a block. We did traffic, or crosswalk traffic counts.
Because they took the light out, people don't come there as much because they can't get out. I mean, they're afraid to.
I think it's more the post office down at 3rd, but that does see some traffic, but we see a lot more at 3rd. But it,
That's because they changed their routes because they used to go forward, but with the stoplight, it was easy to get through. And once they took the stoplight out and the crosswalk, people were like, so they, yes, they switched out.
we haven't quite seen that with the traffic research that we did, but we'll certainly take a look if that's a community initiative that you want to put forward, rapid flashers. Like I said, we did address that. We didn't get a lot of feedback at our commission meetings, but we did get some.
What I would like to see is that the city seek grants for improving the main street of this town to make it a more thriving area. I mean, we are all in here as mom and pop, and I can only do so much, and other business owners can only do so much. And we, you know, rely on you. I mean, we pay our taxes, our sales tax, and rely on you to help support us. And I would like to see the city thrive. I felt it percolating 3 years ago when I opened a business. I don't feel that now when 2 businesses close and then 2 more are approaching me about not making it till the end of the month. And they're major businesses. I can't mention their names, but it's sad. And I really want to have the support of downtown.
There's a couple things you mentioned in there that we can help with. I know I met with your group a couple times now, and we talked about business watch, like neighborhood watch. We've now got 4 neighborhood watches throughout the city. And I tell people all the time, we cannot do it all. On any given night, I may have 2 police officers patrolling the entire city of Shelton. So these neighborhood watch groups, what I tell people is, you know who comes and goes in your neighborhood and who belongs in your neighborhood. I don't. So they've bonded together as these neighborhood watch groups, and I'd give you that same suggestion again of a business watch. So when something happens and a business is broken into downtown, that it becomes instant networking through the business watch program. And if you'd like this,
We have a communications person for the city now. Why can't
because he
that
doesn't
be?
get all the crime stats.
Why shouldn't he? That's part of communicating with the city.
It is, absolutely. And that's
let's-
how,
Can we make that happen?
if you form a business watch, we will be part of that business watch, but it has to be driven by the community just as much as driven by us. I don't have emails or contacts for every business up and down the road. So if we form a business watch, like a neighborhood watch, and we become on that email strand, then we can communicate through that. It has to be a give and take on there.
Right.
And on your crosswalk, that was what we did. I just mentioned we did the crosswalk sting downtown.
I knew the guy that's standing there. I told him it was the wrong day. It was supposed to be there, but yeah.
Well, we went through, believe it or not, he went through a bunch of intersections that day. And we did cite some vehicles for exactly what you're talking about, and we'll continue to do that. But I will tell you this, and I was jokingly talking to a business owner downtown, said I could have cited more business owners for jaywalking that day than I did people running through the crosswalk. So, but let me know on the business. In fact, right back there, raise your hand. There you go.
I know that guy.
Yeah,
Yes.
and we'll be happy to start a business watch with you.
Okay, thank you. You bet. Also, I wanted to know if there was, I forgot about when you talked about the business watch. I'm sorry, I have to think about it.
When it comes to you, let me know.
Okay.
Does it matter how many subjects we have like a time frame, or you know if there's multiple? Oh, can we ask questions about multiple?
So quiet, sorry.
Oh.
You need to be like right up on it.
Can we ask more than one question about different issues, or is it only can be one question?
You're gonna have to ask them.
Okay. I have a couple issues and questions. One was sorry. There was a House bill passed regarding the homeless and involuntary commitment for substance abusers. And it was supposed to be in the original bill that said if someone was in their car for a year, then, and they were homeless, they could get involuntarily committed so they can get help so they're not, you know, squatting in people's house and living other places might help with that issue that we're having. If that's true, Randy Netherland said that he would have someone look into it. But the senator who had said, or legislator who had said that that was in the bill, I couldn't find it when I tried to look in the original bill.
The only involuntary commitment bill that I'm aware of that's through the legislation is regarding substance abuse.
Yes.
Not homeless.
Yes, like if they're living in their car and they're abusing substance.
It has nothing to do with living in your car. It's strictly substance abuse and a civil commitment for families to be able to help loved ones get the treatment they need.
Yeah, he had mentioned in the original bill, if you were living in your car for over a year, it wouldn't have to be suicidal, where, you know, that was one of the reasons they can involuntarily commit people, because they were having a hard time getting people to admit, because, you know, they wouldn't go on their own, then the treatment center wouldn't get filled up, and so, yeah, that was part of the issue. So I thought, well, maybe if there's all these abandoned cars, maybe they can give these people the cars, and then how would you monitor if they were in there for a year before they can get in the treatment center? That was just a thought. Sorry. But my other idea was we have to work with what we have to make things more safe and secure, and if there's 50% of elderly people, seniors, maybe we need maybe to convert more motels or other facilities into senior independent living, so some of those other houses can be lived in that the seniors can't, so if they could be repaired or lived in and sold instead of rented, because then the seniors would have some place to live where they felt safe in a little community, you know, like Populars in Silverdale, they did that and converted one of their motels. So that was just a thought.
We are a little short on motel space.
Yeah. You don't have any older ones either?
We've got 3.
Oh, okay.
2.5.
Okay, so, well, maybe someone will make another one.
We would love that if you have that one.
Yeah. And then I have a question regarding the bond and oath for city manager if it becomes that type of management council. And I was reading this RCW 3518.050, and it says, before entering upon duties of his or her office, the city manager shall take the office and oath for the support of the government and the faithful performance of his or her duties, and shall execute and file with the clerk council a bond, but it doesn't say how much for, and then how is it going to be secured. And then I was reading something else that was saying that they could use the general fund to secure that bond. And that led me to another question, because in the other RCW, it says that the city or town which has operated under the council manager plan for more than 6 years may abandon such organization, it doesn't say it's a city or a town, we're an organization, and accept the provisions of the general laws then applicable to municipals. Upon the petition of not less than 20% of registered voters there without changing its classification unless desired to do so, which is RCW 3518.290. So, thinking in retrospect, this type of government, if it passes and changes, cannot be changed for 6 years. So that doesn't seem fair to me. But then if it does, it only requires 20%. But then what happens to that bond after 6 years? And if the revenue is from the general fund and it's not enough to sustain or to be sufficient, then that might be detrimental. And how is it going to be paid back? I don't understand the bond thing, and it's so confusing. It's almost like organized chaos, because it's hard to understand.
We can answer this one pretty quick.
Okay.
We already have 2 people that are bonded through our
Okay.
insurance agency. Finance director and city manager are currently bonded.
Okay, that's just for the people, not the budget per se. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's what my concern was, because that, oh, sorry, go ahead.
A bond is really a liability insurance policy, and Vicki could help me with this. It's really a liability insurance policy that an employer purchases for an employee that's in a highly responsible position. And it's a basic liability type of insurance policy. That's all that a
Okay.
bond is.
Okay, so it's not for
And-
everything that they're doing in the city is like, we're going to
No.
take a bond out for that.
It's a,
Okay.
it's a type
That's
of an
good.
insurance policy to protect
Okay.
against.
Yeah, see how confusing it could be to a person who's trying to
Right.
figure it out? So yeah, I was really hoping that we would get more charts and graphs to have people understand what they're voting on, because it's so confusing.
If there are any remaining questions for that, we can certainly answer those, but
Oh,
right, not that you need to hurry up, sorry.
Oh.
Just with the charts and graphs, is there any
Oh.
questions on that we haven't answered? Any day, Monday through Friday, that
Oh,
room
that
up there
one?
is the upstairs.
Oh.
We can answer any of the facts. We put out, I think, all the factual information on that we will at this point, but any nuanced
Mhm.
questions, we provide some
Yes, the
follow-up.
typical person probably wouldn't understand anyway,
And
so.
apparently it's on the table, probably next to Kathy's cookies back there.
Okay, thank you. And that sort of made me, I was looking at these other RCWs and whatnot, and Google was popping up other information about one of the problems in hiring, and you said that you're not, the mill is not able to hire because of a lot of restrictions, and they're limited and whatnot. So one of the RCWs had popped up, it was like 42 something, and said if it was, does it matter, well, my question, I'm sorry, is does it matter what form of government the city is, this, you know, if it's council or mayor or whatever, to be able to not ask a person their criminal history to rent or to work?
No, it doesn't matter.
Okay, because I was like, well, it had mentioned that it could be a council, the council could change that if it was a city, but it says that we're not a city or a town, it's a corporation or organization. So, you know, they're using different words, so are we a city, or are we a town, or are we an organization? I think we should be a town, because the town represents the people, which is still a council form, but at least we're under the RCW laws. I'm guessing. City, yes, I know, but when you change it, it uses different words to represent it, and uses different laws you have to abide by.
If it helps, I refer to us as a town as well.
Sorry.
Technically a city.
Hi, everybody. I had a couple of questions. My first question relates to either myself or a group of people that I know well, finding 8 different instances of swastikas on public area. One was on a private business, but the 7 others on public areas, sometimes on the Teresa Johnson Memorial Trail or that switchback above the library. So this kind of ties in with a walker. You know, my son walks those trails as well. I guess I want to know, we've had some trouble with maybe getting a response to those instances. We have reported them. I think there's been some emails sent in, some calls made. We were told at one point that because it was a private business that they had to take care of it and that there was no course of action. So I guess I want to know, who do we call and how quickly can we expect a turnaround? Because up until this point, I've been taking care of it myself. We're sanding it off, if possible. When it's on a tree, I can't really do much, but on a bench or whatever, trying to eradicate that as quickly as possible so that it doesn't keep reoccurring.
I think I can help a little bit. The one on the private business in the downtown area, is that right?
Yeah.
If it's on a private business, there are, unfortunately, I can't, like I said, go onto a private business and start painting as much as I would love to.
Which is why I
Yeah.
didn't bother with that one.
I did meet with the business owners over there, and in fact, the business owner at that particular one rents from the guy who's in the business next to him, who owns the entire building. And I discussed not only that piece of, but on the backside of that building, there was a lot of what could be construed as gang graffiti. And I said, it all needs to be cleaned up. We had some conversations about cost and maybe a volunteer community group that would come in because he was going, it's costing me too much. On the tree part of it, last year we had some what would be classified as Hispanic gang culture graffiti written on the trees up there. And I remember having conversations in our offices of, do we sandblast a tree? How do we get rid of, you know, I don't want to damage a tree trying to get it, and we're talked about, okay.
There's this great, you could do moss graffiti where you mix up a slurry
And that's
of
what we
moss
talked, do
and,
we
like,
just paint it
over,
brown,
and then
or
it
do
grows,
we do?
It grows moss over the top.
So
of it,
yeah,
so
when you
that's an
see
option.
graffiti or anything alarming like that, vandalism, you can just call the central dispatch.
Okay.
And that'll usually get somebody out there to at least take the report if they're not in the middle of other calls. And if not, I'll give you my number and you're welcome
And
to
I
call
guess,
me.
is there any, am I going to get in trouble if I'm marking out a symbol of hate like that, or a racial slur, trying to protect my community and my son?
I can tell you this, if the business owner wants...
I mean on public, like on the trails.
On public, that's why you should probably report it to us, because between Craig's crews and other folks and Mark's...
Our Parks Department, we really try to address graffiti as soon as we can, because it's a broken window syndrome.
Right.
You know, it compounds itself. The trails tend to be difficult because with limited staff, we tend to focus really on liability issues, playgrounds, bathrooms, ball fields, things like that. So we don't get up and down the trails as much as possible, as you can imagine, with a couple employees and 40 acres to take care of. It takes some time to get up and down the trails. But if we find out about it, somebody notifies us, we'll take care of it as soon as we can. On the trees, yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah.
On the natural environment, it's difficult. If we can paint over it, take care of it right away, we will do that as soon as we can, because we don't want it to compound. We don't want it to offend anybody on our public property. So
Thank you.
if we're notified as soon as possible, we'll address it.
We'd also remind people that the best way to not get the graffiti is to use the trails, use the parks, go downtown. So the more people that actually get out and utilize the areas that we have, hopefully the less of that we actually see.
Great. And my other is really just a request for, because I understand that we have this policy, but just a clarification, maybe a public announcement or public clarification of that on behalf of our immigrant neighbors. I just want it to be clearly noted that they can safely call on and interact with law enforcement without fear of being turned over to immigration based on interacting. So I want to make sure that our neighbors know that they're safe if they need to call police, that they can. So just a clarification on that, and I can take that seat.
Absolutely. In fact, I think you've seen us out at the events and things like that, and our interaction with the folks out there. We have specific policies in place that address that.
Hi, I'm Joshua. I've lived here for 11 months now. I'm part of the whole Mason Street debauchery that we've talked about at length already. Not to go into it too much, but I've been stolen from 3 times. I've had people do drugs on my property. I've had people squat in my garage. It's been a real bad experience. But I will say the police response has been great. I've had nothing but positive experience with the police when I call for those instances. So I really appreciate what you guys do. I know it's a really complicated situation, and I trust that you're doing everything you can to help us out. But I wasn't going to come up because so many people have already talked about that same instance, that it's more of a personal thing. But I've been working at the assessor's office as an appraiser for the past 3 months, and one thing I've noticed is this is not an isolated situation. I'll go out and pick up new construction or be out on a reevaluation of a neighborhood, and I see that house everywhere. And I know it's really complicated, and I know it's drug related, and I just want to make sure. There's a lot of people that don't have their voices heard, and they're really frustrated. And I get these calls, you know, when they get their assessed values and they say, well, my property's not worth anything because my neighbors have trash and there's people squatting on their property and they're making drugs in their backyard. So, I mean, I know it's a complicated issue, and I think in order for Shelton to really elevate and grow, to make it a place where people really want to live, that has to be, we got to figure out the best approach for that. I know there's a lot of work to do, and I know you've done a lot of work, but it's just something that really I think needs to come to the forefront to make this a good community to live in. And I just want to make sure that the people that aren't here, that are dealing with the same situation, that that their voice is also heard. And I do appreciate everything you've been doing.
About 4 months ago, I grabbed the mayor, and then I grabbed each one of the other commissioners and let them know we had just hired a code enforcement officer and to prepare, because they're going to start getting a lot of complaints because we haven't cleaned up the town for a long time. And they've started to come in as he gets his feet set, goes through appropriate training to make sure he can cover all the code enforcement bases. We understand that we're going to start doing a lot more. We have a lot of work to do out there because we haven't done an appropriate job making sure code enforcement was actually being taken care of. But we put them on warning about once a month that the calls are going to keep coming in because people have been allowed to do things with their properties in their neighborhoods that they probably shouldn't have been able to do for a long time.
Right, right. Appreciate it.
I want to throw a quick plug in for crime prevention. I'd be amiss if I didn't. You talked about calling us in our services. I tell people all the time, you'd be surprised how many people come in my office and tell me about thefts that occur. And I said, did you call? No. You got to call us every time something like that happens, because that prompts us to go, okay, here's where the calls are coming in. Here's the problem that we have to go deal with. And if we don't get those calls and people, like, for better term, let it fester, and then it all of a sudden it becomes this mountain to overcome rather than a continuous. We put the resources where we get the calls.
I did call you finally.
Yes, he did. I had to tell the city manager, did you call us and report this? No. But that's another story.
I just wanted to say that I think rapid flashers on Railroad is a great idea. When I heard that, I thought, yeah, I mean, we need that. Like in Olympia, right? That's what you're talking about, those little things that blink. Because if you're a pedestrian and you're going to cross the road, it helps to know that there's going to be some signal for the driver. Because, I mean, I walk a lot. And when you're at the crosswalk, you're looking and you kind of have to do this mental math, like, do they know I'm walking here? In Shelton especially, I think there's a lot of people who, unless you're standing in the road, they're like, nah, I'm just going to keep going. To be fair, we also have a lot of people who stand right on the corner and don't cross when it seems like it looks like they might be about to cross. So I think it's kind of there's multiple sides to that. But rapid flashers makes it clear. You press the button, you're planning on going across, everyone gets the signal, and it gives you some confidence to step out. So that's my pitch. Yeah.
Any more questions? We have a number of booths set up in the back that I think everybody here has some representation back there. Got some project ideas coming forward, some of the things that we've done, some of the things that we hope to do. We also have information. I think Darren's got some crime prevention giveaways. The emergency management information is in the back. We appreciate everybody coming out. We hope to do another one of these at some point in the near future. And thank you very much for your continued support.
I've been reading books of old, the legends and the myths, Achilles and